Friends, namaste and welcome to the Sunday edition of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga on your popular Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channel. Uh, as you know, we have two programs a week. One is the legal Words of Wisdom Nyay Gyan Ganga on Saturday at 8 p.m. And we have our uh, Sunday program, our normal Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga at 8 p.m. on Sunday. I first would like to take this opportunity on behalf of Virat Hindustan Sangam family to wish everybody for the forthcoming Deepavali festival. And this is wishing you all a happy Deepavali. And just would like to tell our viewer that today we have an interesting topic on currents in international relations, US presidential elections, and the relation with Russia. And with for this program, Dr. Subramanian Swamy will have a wide-ranging discussion on the subject, and my colleague Ramesh Swamy, who is in US, will let us know about the nitty-gritties of what is the election result, when is the final declaration, what happens thereafter, and he will update us. And thereafter, Dr. Swamy would be speaking on the international relationship of these US elections and the impact it will have on the entire world and India and our national interest. My colleague also, Professor Arvind Chaturvedi, will also be joining us for the discussion. We will also be having the second part of the discussion after this US presidential election issue regarding relation with Russia. As you all know, that last Sunday, Dr. Swamy had written an article in the Sunday Guardian, and there has been some reactions to that. So this topic also will be discussed. I wish to remind our viewers that we will not be having our weekend this weekend, that is the 14th Saturday, November program of Legal Words of Wisdom, and Sunday, the 15th November program of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga on due to the Diwali days. And so we'll be skipping this weekend program. We'll be back on 21st for the legal Gyan Ganga and 22nd for the normal Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom. So with this, I will now request Mr. Ramesh Swamy, who is part of our team and my co-host, who is based in the US, to tell us about the nitty-gritties of the US presidential elections and what it means and the exact status of the results and other things. And then Dr. Swamy will discuss the international impact. Over to Mr. Ramesh Swamy.
Thank you, Jagdish ji. Again, on wishing all the viewers a very happy Diwali and Deepavali. Thank you for having me on, Jagdish ji. So, from the elections point of view, yesterday it has been declared that Biden would be the president-elect, and Kamala Harris will be the first. The first person of color, woman vice president-elect. So it is from a historic standpoint, it is something big. Joe Biden has tried 3 times earlier to become he ran for presidency, but so I think he persevered, and the perception is people have seen him fight again and win this election this time. But it has its own set of controversies, but all said and done, it has set a bunch of records, multiple records. So I will just walk you through a couple of them. So if you look at it, because of COVID, the election kind of started very early. So they sent in postal ballots. With overwhelming response on postal ballots. And many states also did what they call as early voting. So, even before the polling date was 3rd, about a week or two before, some of them opened up the polling booth so people can come in early to avoid big lines on election day. A lot of the states did that. So, what is fascinating about just these two components, what we call as pre-election, actually pre-November 3rd voting, about 101 million ballots were casted. That's it is a record. I mean, there's no such numbers ever, because typically these postal ballots and early voting happens a little bit, but postal ballots are typically reserved for the army and all those things. But it is a fascinating number. About 101 million ballots were cast before the November 3rd election. And the funny part is, when the November 3rd election happened, when people voted in person, um, their numbers are obviously the total ballots that are so far votes have been is about 145 million. So out of which only about 43 million, 44 million cast in person across the country, is based on what we know today. So after the November 3rd election got over, I mean, if you look at it that way, when the count started coming in, the initial surge was for Trump, because people who voted in person were predominantly Trump supporters. So the sudden surge you saw showed Trump pretty much taking the entire Rust Belt, which is the Middle America. He was leading in Pennsylvania. He was leading in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. So it was kind of a different setting, and initially unnerved a lot of people, including me, because I was at the point of thinking, saying that if this is the surge, because he did build a lot of support towards the ending. I mean, closing towards the poll, because the rallies were attended by thousands and thousands of people. I mean, which is again. Were not there for Biden, because he had car rallies and we didn't see that many. So a lot of people started doubting. Net, what has happened is every pollster got it wrong. Not even one pollster got it right, because the way this election is so neck to neck, I mean, till the end, where we didn't get the result for almost 3-4 days after the election. Nobody predicted this. I mean, they thought it was a blowout win for Biden. Then that started slowly eroding. And where it is today, I mean, even if you look at the spread, Biden has about 75 million votes and Trump has about 70 million votes. That's not a bad spread, because it is earlier they said that he's just going to get blown away, but which is not the case. And if you look at about 66%, 66 or 67% of the people voted, which is phenomenal number. I mean, highest ever in this country. I mean, the number of people, the earliest number was 65, which was 1908, but the population there was very low. So you can imagine where we are today in 1908. Even during Obama, we didn't get these numbers. Obama got, during Obama selection, I think it was about 62%, 61.5 or 62%. This is 66. Predominantly due to, I think, postal ballots, because if you can see that's obvious from the 101 million ballots that we see that has been cast before the November 3rd election. The other part is, we feel, I mean, across the board, more participation, and whatever the media tried to do, either side didn't work. So people came out and did what they were supposed to do. I mean, even us, we got the postal ballots, we sent it in. We don't want to go to the booth. We just, as soon as we got it in a couple of days, put it in the mail, send it out. So and the advantage is we can actually track it, saying whether they got the vote or the vote was lost in the mail or something like that. So they give us a tracking. So it was a very smooth postal ballot thing, which we did not expect, because everybody was claiming it'll get, they saw some ballots here and there, but these are not substantiated. So coming to that part where right now Trump is not conceded. So he's saying that he's going to start a flurry of legal actions tomorrow, lawsuits tomorrow, across the states, claiming there's voter fraud. But in a lot of the states, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, if you look at this, the state attorney general or the secretary of state are Republicans, and they are saying there is no evidence of voter fraud. There have been some clerical errors, assigning one bunch of votes to maybe 1,000 votes instead of to Trump, it went to Biden. But there is no large scale evidence so far. That's what it's been said to, that there is no large scale evidence that there has been voter fraud, or has votes has been moved, or what ballots have been put in junk and thing. That has not come out in reality. There are few booth workers who claim that is the case, but that's what they're trying to put some lawsuits tomorrow. One claim like that was thrown out of court yesterday, because one lady claimed that she was not able to vote and all those things, that she sued, and the court threw it out, because saying that it wasn't her mistake, that she didn't do something. So things like that, there are suits that are flying around, but in all practical purposes, even the Congress, be it the Republicans or, I mean, even the Republican Party has not come out in full support of Trump in terms of this claim for the fraudulent transaction, the fraudulent voting, actually. So that being said, because I think everybody is looking for a smoother transition, but this week is going to be interesting. The first few days, depending on how the lawsuits go, is it going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, which I doubt, because the Supreme Court, seeing all of this, might not take it up. There was only 1 or 2 occasions where the US Supreme Court intervened, and they said any postal ballot in Pennsylvania that was received after 8 p.m. has to be set aside and kept separately and counted separately. But right now, the vote lead that Biden has is about 25,000. So even if they don't count it, it really doesn't matter. But I'm pretty sure that it has to be counted. That's the law. So they will count it. They will create the total. Then it's up to the Supreme Court to say, okay, it can be added or not added. One of the judges has told the votes that we received after 8 p.m. to be set aside. Given this, it's at the end of the day, a fascinating election in spite of COVID. I think even though people complain and they make fun of all of this, yes, I mean, this is a 200-year-old system, and obviously any system that is that old has its own issues. But we didn't have that. I mean, I wouldn't say that we had a large scale because and from an efficiency standpoint, they said, "Oh, India has done better." Yeah, but yes, India election system is different because you do popular vote. We don't go by popular vote. One. And second one is that, in-person election in this scale, if it happened in India, what would be? So there are some questions there, but at the end of the day, people do realize they come in and they walk, and this is the system that's been in place for what we call is equal representation. The reason that we have electoral votes is that every state has an equal representation in the government. Otherwise, what happens is the smaller states get left out in a policy matter, but so every state, a presidential election thing, the candidate has to go to every state and ask for their votes. It's not that, I'm just giving you an example. I'm just making an example. So you just don't take, okay, I'm just going to take UP, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and 4 or 5 states, and that's good enough for me to get a majority in India. Like, they don't focus on the southern states for the parliament elections. A central party like BJP, that's not the case in the US president. They have to actually get each and every, like what we have seen in this election, every electoral college matters. Even 6 votes from Nevada became such a big hotspot for 3 days, which they finally declared to Biden. So that is the system that we have for more to do the equal, because some states don't have very little population. So that's the idea behind why we have these kind of concepts, is to, this electoral college, even though it's confusing. But I think it makes equal representation an issue, an important aspect. So that, in short, is where we are. So on December 14th, when all the votes are tallied, they will make the result official. So that is the first milestone. Then obviously the inauguration happens on January 20th. So that's the second part. What happens is the transition, typically when the president concedes, the transition team is put in place. Biden has already announced a COVID team, which is going to start tomorrow. He's going to announce for a COVID team tomorrow on Monday, because that's what they're going to tackle. And for him, he's going to tackle that first. And then if Trump concedes or not concede, depending on how we go, then the transitions start happening, and officials are announced what's going to happen, who's going to take over, how this is going to happen, things like that. So 14th is the first main deadline that December 14th. So that gives us an idea. And so, I mean, they officially certify, that's what it means. So they certify the results on 14th of December, because they have to wait for all ballots. Earlier, it is because all the military ballots used to come in, so they had this time to December 14th. Now they have still have to, that's laid in concrete. One very interesting anecdote: why Tuesday? Everybody wants to know what is this November 3rd? Why is it a Tuesday? It was a very interesting tidbit. Earlier, when 200 years ago or some 100 years ago, people were using carts and horses to come and vote. So on Sunday, they go to church. So they don't do anything on Sunday. So they won't do anything pretty much. So they leave on Monday from their homes. I mean, booths were not all over the place. It's somewhere about 30 miles away, 50 miles away. So they travel all day on Monday, vote on Tuesday, and go back home. So that is the reason as to why we have a Tuesday election. So I'm just an interesting anecdote I just want to say as to why do we have these things on a Tuesday. And even on a Super Tuesday, when they say that, basically even in a primary, it's exactly the same reason. The Tuesday part was more interesting, is that they wanted to have people come in carts and earlier walk, whatnot, and they just go. So it was a 3-day, 4-day holiday for them during these elections. So and nowadays there are no holidays. They tried to bring in holidays, but that has been shot down. But I just wanted to share that part with you. So with that, I just wanted to hand it over to Dr. Swamy.
Well, before I begin, I have to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
What is the percentage of vote? I'm not talking about the electoral college. I'm talking about on the votes cast. Well, what's the percentage of vote Trump got?
You mean the total number of votes, you mean?
Yes, as a percentage.
Bear with me, I'll give you the latest one. He got 47%, 47.7%.
All right.
And Biden got 50.6%. So there's a 3-point spread.
So it's not a landslide as they were originally expecting. So
absolutely not a landslide.
All right. So it's almost divided in the middle.
Absolutely.
Almost.
America America's divided in the middle.
Okay.
So some commentators say, oh, you see, he divided the country into two. But other commentators say, you know what? Everybody voted. Their choice. At the end of the day, they have the right to vote for whoever they want to. But at the end of the day, what's fascinating is so many people voted. I think we should appreciate that democracy is alive.
But in the case of Biden, the entire media, except one or two, say CNN, News, New York Times, and Post, all on one side.
Correct.
And Trump was almost alone on one side, and still he ended up nearly with half the vote. It's a very commendable thing. I don't think that that they can ignore Trump or his influence. I am told that the next election, which is in 2024,
correct.
There will be two South Asian or two Indian origin contests of two females. One is Kamala Harris, and the other is that who was a governor of I think Nikki Haley.
North Carolina.
Yeah, she's very sharp. I must say she's one of the brightest politicians in the American sphere that I know, and so it'll be it's almost Indian takeover. But anyway, there have been some Indians elected this time to both Congress and to the Senate.
Yeah, they're actually very surprising, Dr. Swamy.
Or you can call them Indian Americans or Indian origin Americans.
Indian Americans, yeah, they are. That's what they call themselves. So it's fascinating, right from the half Indian American vice president. A lot of congressmen have won, especially in Chicago. There's a person, the one in Arizona, a doctor from, a doctor has won. So there's a good uptick among Indian Americans to be a part of this. Even in New Jersey, the only Senate thing, the guy who stood against Cory Booker was an Indian, Nikki Mehta. So Vicky Mehta, I think. So he stood against Cory Booker. He pretty substantially got a good amount of votes, not 45%. I think he polled about 30%, which is not bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
now,
sorry, go ahead.
Now, of the people elected, how many are Democrats and left wing?
So if you look at the House, Dr. Swamy, currently the Democrats have 214 seats. Technically, they have to hit 218 for an absolute majority, which they have not. So the Republicans are 196 so far, and they have actually gained a few seats.
Yes.
On the Senate side, as I've always been saying, is the most crucial now. Okay, it's 48 each. So in Georgia, we're going to have a runoff in January. That's for 2 seats. Okay, if the Democrats flip those two, then again, the tiebreaker is Kamala Harris, the vice president. There again is another history, very interesting history, is if that happens, it'll be the first time in the history that two women head the House and the Senate.
Okay.
Never happened before. So again, it's a very interesting happen because the Senate head, the Senate chief, obviously the vice president is that way. So she gets the vote. So it's going to be a very interesting and fascinating few days when we know till January. So that January election is pretty much going to be like presidential election because it's very crucial.
Now, there was one lady whom our foreign minister refused to meet, and therefore said that if she's there, he will not attend the meeting. Do you remember that? Jaishankar.
Oh, yeah. Was it? I'm not sure if it was...
Ramila?
No, Pramila Jaipal. I think
Pramila Jaipal.
Yeah, she won again. She got re-elected. Seattle.
Yeah, she's left wing.
Of course.
Okay. Then would you say Kamala Harris is also left wing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then some Dr. Swamy, let me put a disclaimer. Being a true American, up to this point, yes, because once as a vice president, then you cannot be a left or a right. Technically, I'm just.
Well, I mean, you can have if you have a commitment, it can show up in a number of ways.
Correct.
I'm not. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He is left wing. Correct.
Ro Khanna.
Ro Khanna didn't make. I don't think he made through.
Okay.
I think I might be wrong. He might have come through, but
I think he has come through.
Yeah. Ro Khanna came through. He's Democrat. Yeah. Ro Khanna is Democrat.
Yeah. So there, the shall we say, the nationalist Indian flavor is literally missing amongst the Indians who have been elected.
Yes.
There's no one amongst them who like today in his thank you speech, Biden said, we will go to church on such and such day. I mean, the day before, I think the Sunday before the inauguration, he said he will be attending church.
Yeah, very tradition. It's a tradition.
Okay. Is Kamala Harris also Christian?
Yes, she is one. Yeah.
And Pramila, what is Jaipal?
Pramila, I don't know, Dr. Swamy. I don't know how she's declared herself.
Okay. All right. Anyway, we should make a list of these people of Indian origin. I know that that this is going to be a factor, and I will when I give my version of what has happened, I'll bring out why I'm asking these kinds of questions.
Sure, absolutely.
Normally, who cares about what religion somebody has? But the question is how it impacts on India. I'll bring it.
That is very crucial, Dr. Swamy. As I said again, I think I've spoken to you earlier. More than the presidential election, the Senate was more important. So it's fascinating. Okay, you can proceed, Doctor.
All right. I'm also a bit of American. No, it's just 10 years.
Of course you are. I mean, you are a global citizen.
Okay. A global Hindu citizen.
Yeah, but you're part Chinese, you're part American, you're part...
Okay. Now, what I wanted to say is that this election was not Biden plus Kamala Harris fighting Trump and Pence. This was actually a coalition. In the case of Trump, he was representing the farmers. He was representing the blue collar workers. He was representing the whites. So, I mean, he was representing a very definite thing. A group of people, and they are a very large number, as you said, 47% of the vote or more he got. And they have no foreign policy inclination. So therefore, if Trump gets elected, we don't look at the impact on India except in terms of policy. But in the case of Biden, it's a coalition that has come together. I mean, what is his name? Bernie, who was the earlier candidate and dropped out, he's completely left-wing. And you have all these congressmen we have named, they are left wing. So there is a left wing oblique liberal who have very strong views on what they consider is secularism. Secularism is not for them just a right to pursue your religion, but that if there is a religious minority, they have to be looked after specially, and that they will be against any majority religious consolidation in other countries. So therefore, when they have this kind of mindset, I expect that this victory of Biden and Kamala Harris would impact negatively on the BJP. In terms, you already know that one candidate, poor chap, he had nothing to do with RSS, but he had, mixed with RSS people like Ramesh Buttada and these people, the Hindu Swam Sevak Sangh and so on, which organizations exist in the United States. And there was a real campaign run against him. And that this is Hitler, then, there's no connection with Hitler, but they go on conjuring up that. That plus the missionary religious converting Christians who come to India, and then they finance the building of churches and so on, whether there are Christians there or not. But anyone who wants to build a church, you can even get it off the internet and get money that way. So this is another thing, this religious conversion problem in India, and financed by foreign sources. And then this time I was surprised about the money I heard was given to the Biden campaign, and Biden outspent Trump, by the way, was given by the Islamic forces, that is not only in Indian Muslims who have been radicalized, but Muslims from other countries who have come, and they formed various organizations, and they all have come together to see Trump is defeated. And so now I was seeing some excerpts in a Russian TV, in passing in one of the channels which is put out from Russia, where the American representatives of these groups very clearly said that Biden and Kamala Harris have to act according to our agenda, because we are the ones who made them succeed. Otherwise, they had no chance against Trump. So what is the impact on India of the US presidential election would be that not officially, but in semi-official, important, prominent persons' organizations, there will be a targeting of the movement called the Hindutva movement. And they will make out every particular incident into try and make out that this is the fascist Hindu sentiment. So we have to face this happening, and we have to counter it. I hope Prime Minister has enough people who know how to sophisticatedly, in a sophisticated way, handle it. We are going to have some embarrassing moments also. Our foreign minister, Jaishankar, when he went last time, refused to attend a meeting if Pramila Jayapal was present there. Now she's become a congressman, and she's become part of the ruling dispensation. And it'll be very embarrassing for Mr. Jaishankar now to go to the United States and not make some amends for having taken the stringent stand that he doesn't want to be in a meeting where she's present. So whether he should have done that or not is another matter. But the fact is that now he is in this ticklish position. It is at this time that the Pakistanis are going to be also very, 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 very effective, because they have always had a very good propaganda machinery. Even at the time when in the 60s and 70s I was teaching at Harvard, I found them very effective. Although India was that time a wonder of what they call as a democratic country in a third world country. I mean, it was a matter of great pride that India had regular elections and so on. But still, the Pakistanis were able to, do propaganda and so on. So we may have some difficulty on Kashmir as a consequence of this election, because they already said, I mean, Biden has said it, Kamala has said it in stronger terms, that this CAA and this abolition of Article 370, this is not acceptable to us. Now, who the hell are they to say it's not acceptable or not? It's an internal matter. CAA is giving citizenships of people who have come to this country in under religious persecution, particularly from our neighboring countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. And those who have been here since 1947, when the partition took place. At that time, there's no Bangladesh, it was called East Pakistan. And Mahatma Gandhi had said in his meetings, prayer meetings, that these poor, unfortunate people, they must be given citizenship. Jawaharlal Nehru also said it, didn't do anything about it. Indira Gandhi said it, didn't do anything about it. And it is only BJP which did it. And what did we do? We said all those in the register of stateless people who are in this country on religious persecution, if they have been at least 5 years before December 31st, 1914, then they will be given on a fast track citizenship of India. Anybody can get citizenship of India if they come through the Citizenship Act. There's no bar to that. Even Muslims, if they come, they'll get it. In fact, there was one field singer, musician called Swamy, Adnan Swamy. He has got a citizenship just now. We did offer citizenship to Taslima, but that Bengali poetess, Bangladeshi poetess, but she chose to go to Sweden for citizenship, but she lives a good part in India because that's where she's comfortable. So, and say Tariq Fateh, I think, is a Canadian passport citizen. So there are persecuted people for political reasons. If they come here, they certainly have a choice to become a citizen through the Section 6 of the Citizenship Act. But they are targeting the CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act, which only in those who came after partition and at least 5 years before 2014, December 31st, and were in the register, or their children were in the register. And so those people will get citizenship on fast track. That's all that CAA says. What is the objection? Why did you leave Muslims out? Because no Muslim came to India on religious persecution. They've come on political persecution. And I give you these names. Adnan Swamy said he'll face religious persecution for singing songs which have Hindu flavor. So therefore, why did you do this? Because they have been hanging on without citizenship, and everyone promises. We have quoted in my speech in Parliament. I quoted Manmohan Singh, who he pleaded with Advani that please do it, and when he became Prime Minister, he didn't do it. So therefore, I'm saying these are the kinds of troubles you're going to have. Religious conversion of particularly Christians. And you must know that Biden is a nice guy. He's a very balanced person. He was very helpful to us on the nuclear deal when Obama was president. But he's a Catholic and a strictly practicing Catholic. And given that that these Catholic missionaries have given him a huge support this time, I think we should expect that they will be demanding. You know, we have taken all these through these NGOs put up by Christian missionaries, getting huge amount of money for building churches and so on. Even if there are no Christians in a village, they will build a church there. So those we have closed down. And they have been demanding earlier during Trump's period that these should be withdrawn. Amnesty International is not a Christian group, but our government took a stand that what their activities are so biased that we think that we must take some action, and that they want reversed. So there will be a lot of pressure on the social side and to disrupt this Hindutva movement, because what has the Hindutva movement done? By itself, Hindutva movement could take BJP very far. But of course, if you make a mess of the economy to such an extent that the people forget even religion and start worrying about where their next meal is going to come from, or how they're going to get their daughters married, or sons married, or sons' education, daughters' education, all these things, you see, at that time nobody is going to think about Hindutva. Things shouldn't deteriorate that much. And I would say in Bihar, if we lose, it will be because unemployment has become such a serious problem that I think all talk of Hindutva is just water off the duck's back. So therefore, but if there's Hindutva, then people will not vote on caste. So people will not be divided. The Congress strategy has always been divide the Hindus and unite the minorities. And minorities means Muslims actually. So once the Muslims vote as Muslims and for Congress, because he gave them more freedom to do things which in a democratic secular society they will not be allowed to do. So that group is going to be targeted by these people to protest and then make a big thing. Then the media you saw what the media did to Trump. I couldn't believe such savagery that I witnessed. It was most unlike the America I knew. So let us say that number one, as far as India, China, United States relations are concerned, our people in the bureaucracy and in the BJP IT cell, I suppose, they all are started singing this tune. No, there's no difference. Countries don't go on personalities and so on. It's not a question of personality. The voter base of the present Democratic Party is not the voter base of Kennedy's time or even the time of Clinton. Clinton was already moving very close to the Pakistan point of view, but still Clinton was not all gone there. But this one has been put together and Biden has been brought in by this coalition in which Bernie Sanders has played a major role and many other of the left-wing intellectuals have played a role. So this is one side. What is going to happen, as I can see from the statements coming out from China, is they will now go an extra mile to make up with United States. And the Chinese are very smart in these. They have already started working on it. They couldn't do it with Trump because the extra mile was not enough. He wanted extra 100 miles. So therefore, the Chinese had a very hard time with him. But as far as Biden is concerned, he has no such history of hostility. They may be hostile to Russia, but they, and particularly because of the suspicion of the relationship between Trump and Australia and Russia. But China is the same thing as Russia. This is my second topic, which I'll deal with briefly. But I think India should not underestimate the difficulties that we are going to have with the Biden Kamala Harris government.
Absolutely.
The Modi can no more do this as a loner, go and meet Xi Jinping 18 times, and then then everything is evaporated, or you no more howdy Modi and Akli Baat, Agli Sarkar, Trump ki Sarkar, or something. All this. Now we will have to have really a thinking a crowd with Modi, and Modi must be as one of the equals. I mean, first amongst the equals, and they must make solid decisions where we have to be tough and where we have to be conciliatory and see this thing. I'm very sorry that although we have abolished Article 370, and it took me from my day I entered politics was 1970 until 2019 August. I kept saying you don't need a parliament vote to remove 370. I just won't enter anybody's head, and finally it did. And without a parliamentary 2/3 majority vote, as people were all making wild guesses, we removed it. But now we have to see that a lot of things have to be put in place so that it becomes like any other state of India, Jammu Kashmir. Of course, Ladakh is separated. Ladakh is not such a big problem. But the Kashmir is an issue and particularly because the Pakistanis have infiltrated in a big way. So this is something which we have a decrepit, dead resolution of the United Nations, but it can be revived. So I would say that the BJP government, there will be a lot of spin thing, everything is fine, and Modi will make one trip and it will be all over. And no. And that too, particularly if BR goes against us and the economy continues to sink, which it is. It's been consistently sinking. I mean, finance ministry has no clue what to do. And so all these things put together makes India look weak. And as the foreign minister of the United States, Pompeo, said before going back to America, warning India that please don't do a spin on China's aggression in Ladakh, because it will cause a serious doubts in the minds of people. Now, that's a very, very serious thing to say. Yes, the Chinese have come and sat on our territory, and we are all the time talking, and then giving wonderful talks have taken place. The Chinese have agreed to reduce the number of troops. Of course, once they've taken over property that they wanted, they can reduce it. Doesn't matter. They can bring it back also. So I think if the Chinese and the American relations improve, we are going to have trouble in the border. And given the social composition of the Democratic Party, the Pakistanis are going to be gainers. And inside our country, the militant Islamic forces, the religious converting Christians, particularly Catholics, they are going to be a force who will get a lot of oxygen from America, and the Hindutva will be under attack, and therefore we'll have to design our strategy not in Modi knows all mentality, but in terms of having everybody's inputs, and then what in Sanskrit is called manthan, churning, from which you produce the nectar. That kind of attitude we have to take. Let me say a few words about.
Quick thing. A couple of points on what you just said. I just want to. The biggest challenge, of course, I agree with what's going to happen to India. But from Biden's perspective, his biggest challenge is to how is he going to ward off the far left loonies we have in this country. We have a couple of them. So they are already talking about witch hunting and about Trump and all. I mean, they have their own agenda. That's his biggest challenge is going to be how do you push that away. Second, and I agree, India is really, they have to have the right people to negotiate with this administration. It's not going to be easy or a cakewalk. It is going to be tough. Luckily, for now, US is more focused on the problems internal to begin with. One is COVID and the economy. Once that is taken care of, it's going to be no holds barred unless we have overwhelmingly, Dr. Swamy, 2 points, which is one is interesting was minorities voted obviously Democrat, and pretty much 100% or Islamic people of Islamic origin, they voted for Democrats. So, Indians here and there, they don't actually make not even a dent, so they really don't matter, but our voices need to be heard. Fascinating point, 13% of African American blacks voted for Trump.
Yes, that's right.
Which is a new...
And they were the younger lot.
Yeah, younger lot and educated African American. This whole facade of saying that Trump is a racist is nonsense, because why would 13%, in spite of such a turnout, 13% of African American men voted for Trump? So it's basic, and Latinos also, they voted a good amount of people higher than what they voted. Yeah.
In Florida, for example.
Yeah, Florida. Yeah. So a lot of all the Cuban people.
Cuban Spanish-speaking people. Yeah.
They voted for Trump. Okay, we can move on to the next topic, Dr. Swamy.
No. Let me add. You brought out a very important point. It has an implication for one other point which I want to make, and I've tweeted about it today. You see, Trump has demonstrated maybe he hasn't that kind of hold on the Republican Party and all. I'm not going into that. Whether the Republican Party wants to become independent of him and all that, but I would say he has got a huge mass following.
Absolutely.
All right. And we should cultivate him, even though he has lost the election.
Absolutely. You're right.
And therefore, when Mr. Modi sent a greetings message on his Twitter, his own Twitter handle, to Biden and Kamala Harris, he should have also tweeted separately to Donald Trump to say, thanks, dear friend, you did a lot for us when you were president. And I also have suggested that Prime Minister Modi should tweet inviting him as a special guest for Republic Day and the beating of the retreat. There will be just after the whenever that ceremony takes place. What is it called? Where the president is formally he swears and so on.
Inauguration, Dr. Swamy.
Inauguration, yes, they call that the inauguration. And that after that, he will be literally fish out of water. That's the time to invite him. And if he is not in any office, we can even consult with him. So we need to have somebody who's solidly with us, has a solid mass base, and I think Trump should not be dumped. We should continue to honor him and be in touch with him.
Very valid point, Dr. Swamy, because he can still move a lot of needles in the government. At least if they take the Senate, you need the Republican side.
Yeah.
The Democrats, yesterday there was a discussion, Dr. Swamy, if Trump stands in based on today, if he comes again in 2024, he will win. That's what they're saying. So we should make sure that he doesn't come back. That's the agenda they have. So we can move on, sir. Sorry.
Okay. Now, see, the question of Russia, people are confused when you say Russia, Moscow. Russia, there was a Russia when the czars were, were kings. I mean, there was a royalty. There was called the czars. Then there was a Bolshevik revolution, and then Lenin took over, brought in communism. Then Stalin, rammed it down the throats of these citizens. And then in World War II, he captured this country, that country, and 16 countries came together to form what is called the Soviet Union. And its capital was Moscow. Now, today, people say that Moscow, that the Soviet Union, Russia, Moscow, all are the same. No, they're not. It's a whole new country called Russia. Of course, it's an ancient country, but it's not Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan or Ukraine. All these were part of the Soviet Union. Now they're all become independent countries. 16 countries. As they used to jokingly say, the propaganda of the communists was there's no inflation in Soviet Union, there is no poverty in Soviet Union, there's no unemployment in Soviet Union. The only truth was there's no Soviet Union also now. So the question basically is that today we are dealing with a country which is much, much smaller than the Soviet Union. And it's not a communist country, it is just a dictatorship and a de facto dictatorship, not formally. And Putin is heading it. But Putin had this problem with Trump. He put in all kinds of sanctions. They had a lot of money problem. The Chinese have come. And according to 3 important studies, one by the Warsaw Institute in Poland, 2 is the Carnegie Institute in the United States, and 3rd is an article written in Hindu, The Hindu, by the former Foreign Secretary Vijay Gokhale. All 3 say only one thing in the core, that Russia is today a junior partner of the Chinese, and that the Chinese have given them money to see that they don't become bankrupt, thanks to the sanctions, the possibility that was there because the Americans had put in, under Trump, they had put in sanctions. Now, one of the fears that many of us who have been following this literature is that this S-400, the Americans broke many of our promises, their promises to supply certain advanced electronically equipped weapon system, because we bought S-400. Now, it is not jealousy only. The S-400 electronics is all from China. And I would say that there are many things that the Russians sell today which the Chinese don't want to sell it directly because there's so much resistance to China after the COVID. So, essentially, if Russia is a junior partner of China and China has come and occupied your land in violation of a mutually agreed LAC, then I think we have to be extremely careful. And I don't think that we can think of the Russians as a friend. And this is not the Russia of those days. I don't think they were friends then also. But, they were seemingly friendly. They came and built the Billai style, helped us build this Billai style steel plant, and the pharmaceutical companies and all that. There was an apparent feeling that they are in our side, that they gave us MiGs, and, they sided with us in all disputes with the United States. They used their veto to see that Kashmir never got off the ground in the United Nations. All that is there. But that is not today the Russia. So let us therefore become careful. And because I hit the thing on its, literally the head, nail on the head, I was surprised that the Russian embassy issued a rebuttal. It was a polite rebuttal, very well written in a very dignified language. But the fact is that they thought it was necessary to rebut. And then they went around shopping with the intellectuals. Most intellectuals declined to issue statements, but finally they got some junior professor in JNU in the Russian Studies department. That makes me very suspicious. And he issued some statement. So now, why is this fear? And this, why should they take an article by someone who's not in the government so seriously? Well, I mean, I can be flattered by it, but the fact is that I am not against Russia. In fact, when they had, after Russia was formed, their ambassador, Kadakin, he actually reached out to me and said, now that's, Soviet Union's past, now we are Russians and so on. So I said, if you're really an independent country, why can't you give us the now defunct? KGB is now defunct. There's no KGB. It's only from FSI or FIS or something, another agency. But KGB's archives, they have material on how Subhash Chandra Bose died in Russia, was killed in Russia. They have reports about Lal Bahadur Shastri. They have reports about Sanjay Gandhi, Deen Dayal Upadhyay, who was also mysteriously killed. So I think if you are friends, you should give us these documents. Or let us, go and examine it. We'll send some scholars and they can sit down in your archives and pull out the documents. A lot of documents, by the way, went to United States because when Yeltsin came, he appointed a commission to investigate the KGB. And so the Americans that time were in a very influential position in Moscow. And they quietly went to the KGB archives, took out all the documents and photostated them and put them in Harvard Lamont Library and Woodrow Wilson in the Princeton University, so on. So I have read these documents. I'm shocked. You see, names of Indians who have taken money from KGB, which includes, by the way, Sonia Gandhi. That's how I said it. And then one of the commission members set up by Yeltsin after the commission work was over came to Harvard to take a PhD in political science. Her name was Yevgena Albatz. She's written a book, State Within a State, The Story of KGB. And there she is named Sonia Gandhi and given the file numbers and so on and so forth. I also had a talk with her. And although she was not forthcoming, because by then the things had changed and she was a little worried about how it will all go in the new dispensation in Russia. But the fact is that this much she confirmed that everything she wrote in the book is absolutely true because she has seen those documents when she was on the commission. So why is the Russians not doing that? On the contrary, when Sonia Gandhi went to Moscow in 2006, Yeltsin personally escorted her to a city near St. Petersburg called Vladimir. And what is the importance of Vladimir? There in Vladimir, Sonia Gandhi was taken by Putin at her request, to see a jail. And what's so special about that jail? Sonia Gandhi's father was a soldier in Hitler's army. Nobody here wants to do any propaganda with it. In RSS, they will do anything. They will say it is following Hitler's ideology without having RSS having anything to do with Hitler. But here is somebody whose father was in Hitler's army, was taken prisoner during the war, was kept in Vladimir jail. So Sonia Gandhi went there to see where her father stayed. So I think we have to therefore go along with the view of the intellectual world, independent intellectual world, like the Polish and the American Carnegie and so on. I'm not saying that I will trust the American Carnegie on American policy. But certainly, what they say about Russia is material that just be taken. And our own foreign secretary, once who was a foreign secretary, he had himself made this in a op-ed page article in Hindu, and there's been no contradiction of his article. Only mine has been contradicted. I am ready to debate with the Russians, but I would advise our government, please don't do anything with your eyes closed, and don't go by sentimental thing that, oh, Russians helped us in the Bangladesh war and so on. I don't know how much the Russians helped, but whatever it is, but this is not Russia. This is not Soviet Union. This is not communist Russia. So this is a totally new country, and this country has the capital in the ancient city of Moscow, but that's about all. And I think we must therefore be very, very careful in dealing with, as long as our relations with China are tough, and we have this problem. It cannot improve unless the Chinese leave that territory that they have occupied. But as long as our relations are, in this state of affairs with China, I think we cannot trust the Russians. We can have, diplomatic relations. Definitely, we can be sweet with them and we can exchange views. But in terms of taking the equipment, in terms of allowing them into areas where we think that they could spy for China, we should not allow them. This was my thesis.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. Jagdish ji?
Yeah, Arvind, can you comment?
Dr. Swamy, my first question is, last year in White House, Diwali was celebrated.
Yes.
Next Diwali, if Joe Biden wins or declared tomorrow or day after, whether Diwali will be celebrated in White House once again, Kamala Harris as the Vice President.
Well, no. Correction. Trump is still president till 20th January. So it will be celebrated, unless he is gloomy. But our chaps should go and cheer him up and say, let's celebrate Diwali. And I think the Prime Minister also should send him a message. Thank you, President Trump. You did a lot for India, and we respect you whether you are president or not president. So then, yes. Now, as far as there's no binding thing on Kamala Harris because she is a Christian. So therefore, the issue is there's no compulsion for her to celebrate Diwali. She wants to do it for the Indian community and all. I don't know that she can do it for political reasons. But I have no expectation that she should, or that she is required to do it.
My second question relates to the US, China, and Russia. The diplomatic relations are not linear like mathematical equations. When Joe Biden was asked some time back in an interview that who is the biggest threat for US, he named Russia. And the Trump was blaming China along with WHO, of course, for COVID-19. And Trump almost provoked India also to have border relations with China. Now, Trump is going or likely to go. And when Biden comes back, US-China relations will improve. And once the US-China relationships improve, US considers, or at least Joe Biden considers, Russia is the biggest threat. And you say that Russia is the younger brother of China, or
junior partner.
Junior partner. What do you think this equation is? I mean, it is very confusing. What is the axis?
Biden on his what he said about Russia is when he was vice president, whatever perception he has. But today he won't have any problem if he makes up with China. He won't have any problem with Russia. Now, by the way, on 15th October, Putin made a public statement while addressing a group that I cannot rule out that we will have military compact with China. And a little earlier, Xi Jinping had come to Moscow and he said, Putin is my best friend and Russia is closest to China. So, I mean, the Chinese will deliver Russia, and the Russians will be glad if the sanctions are removed. So,
the India government is signing the logistic agreement with Russia. Rajnath Singh is doing this. We have relations with UK, Japan, Australia, and France, etc. This logistic agreement for Indian military, and now Rajnath Singh is going to Russia to do this.
I said that the people are confused. This is our Soviet Union, and Soviet Union is our friend, and so on. We have to wake up, and otherwise we'll be woken up like the Chinese woke us up in 1962, and now in Depsang they have captured. They've got now cantonments. They've got a small helicopter pad and all that, and nobody knows. It has not been publicized. The media is also very cooperative, must say. So,
Arvind?
Dr. Swamy, it is very fascinating when we talk about the international forces. We had the bipolar world, and with the disintegration of USSR, this bipolar world disappeared, and we thought that India will emerge as one of the poles, and maybe some people also said India-China friendship. In fact, you were also one of the advocates earlier.
I am still but after the Chinese clear out from all our territory, I will resume activities to befriend China.
And there are many other Indian leaders who say Chindia. I mean, you have some people in Congress also who advocate the concept of Chindia. Yes. But anyway, with the Joe Biden coming and taking over in January, I think things are likely to change. We only hope that things will be better for India, though he was vice president during Barack Obama's time, and Modi and Barack Obama had a first name relationship. And we hope that his friend Barack.
You can hope like this. You see, you sound like one of these village women. You see, who are all the time hoping "Achhe din aayenge." The fact is, you have to now do hard-nosed strategic planning.
Right.
You have no friends just now.
Dr. Swamy, quick thing.
Yes.
I mean, this first name, last name doesn't matter. So if I meet Joe, unless he's president, we call him only one on a first name basis only. So that's not the issue. The second is, important thing is, I think India has a very good opportunity in their hand because of China. Between being the buffer / being actually a very good player in the Southeast Asian region because of China, because a lot of the nations are afraid. India has an opportunity. It's up to us to take it or not. Otherwise, we are not going. We can't keep on waiting.
What is that opportunity? I can tell you what opportunity in my mind is.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Take the Chinese vacate what they have occupied.
Exactly. There you go.
And I asked the military people. They said, yes, we can do it. But we are not being allowed to do it.
We think we have Dr. Swamy's video frozen. But anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, your video got frozen, Dr. Swamy. But anyway, your audio is good. Quick thing is, also Hindu, like what you just said, the Kamala Harris' uncle has said that Kamala will raise issues if there is a human rights violation in India. I said, yeah, good. Let her try.
Yes. Right.
Arvind, please go ahead.
Go ahead and complete.
Thank you very much for enlightening us and throwing this gyan on US-Russia relationship with India. And we hope, I mean, though of course it sounds like the rural women, achhe din aayenge. Let's strategize for those, have a strategy which will give us the real achhe din with India and the new president in the United States. Thank you very much for covering these two issues, which are very important diplomatically speaking. Both Russia and USA are important for us. And we'll be not meeting next Saturday and next Sunday because of Diwali. So the Nyaya Gyan Ganga on Saturday 14th. and the Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga on 15th will not be there. So we'll be meeting next on 21st November, Saturday, in Nyay Gyan Ganga, and 22nd Sunday on Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga with new topic and with Dr. Subramanian Swamy. And I thank my co-host Jagdish Shetty, Mr. Ramesh Swamy, who has given a lot of information on the US polls, and the technical team headed by Ashish Shetty, Swaminathan, Ishwar Iyer, Gadgi Rakesh, Tejas. So we'll be seeing our viewers on 21st November, Saturday. Till then, Namaskar, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.